Hello, YouTube. Welcome to my channel, Marriage, Politics, and Sports. Again, this is, I don't know if I've ever went live twice in one day. I'm starting to get a hang of this. But I had to come back again with some of the thoughts, not only what happened in Minnesota, but what's going on across the whole United States. I think we are at a crossroads, and we've been there for quite some time. And I think Tampon Timmy has definitely brought us over the line with his threat of using the National Guard against the federal government. So let's talk about it a little bit. Let's go back to some of the definitions of uh, insurrection and sedition. Now, I'm not I'm a registered Democrat, by the way. That was because I'm black, right? We were born into the Democratic Party as if we were Catholics, born into, Catholicism and being baptized as babies. We didn't know any better. So the truth of the matter is, I just started to move more independently, maybe in the last 5 or 6 years, maybe 7 years or something like that. So insurrection and sedition are the two things that should become major words in our vocabulary ever since from now on, since the death of the lady of Renee Wood, or whatever the last name is, in Minnesota. It should have been there long ago. But let me start from the beginning. The definition of insurrection is clear: a violent uprising against the authority or government. And right now, it's the blue states versus the federal government, right? Not just Trump, but the whole federal government, because ICE is federally mandated by Congress, and the executive branch is executing a mandate. Okay, but let's start from the insurrection on January 6th, way back when. I'm one of those people who are not trying to mince words like the Republicans or anybody else. It was an insurrection. It absolutely was an insurrection. And I don't have to take sides for that. Let's not mince words. If those guys who got into the well of Congress, if they were able to get the book, we would have a different government right now. They would have been able to disrupt the election. They were thwarted, okay? If Ashley Babbitt, when she broke through that last retaining wall and got shot, if all of those crazy assholes who were trying to get in with her would have got there, that was the last refuge for a lot of Congress people. Nobody would have, no, it's no telling what would have happened if they would have got in there. So that serviceman had to do what he did. Okay, some people want to call her a hero. We got to thank her for her service. But at that point, she was an insurrectionist, right? And if she would have got through and they would have disrupted the election, no telling what kind of government we would have right now. Okay, and so we got to call a spade a spade. So it was an insurrection on January 6th. Make no mistake at it. The only thing that's not true, or we haven't proven, is that Trump was behind it. It's that, but we don't have to go down that path because that needed a court case and somehow that got thrown out. Okay, so let's get past that. So we're in insurrection times right now, okay? And we say, well, the blue states are not violent against ICE. Well, that's not true. There's been a few shootings. There's been rock throwing. There's been a lot of shit that there's been, ramming with cars and shit like that. Now, it hasn't been a full Confederate state, attack, but we're getting there, right? We're getting there. So there was an insurrection on January 6th, and we have all the makings of a new insurrection now based on the sanctuary states and cities who are in open rebellion against the federal government. I'll debate that with anybody. We don't have this all over the news every freaking day. They're in open rebellion. The violence with ICE and the people of any state trying to protect illegal aliens has been brought on by their leaders, Brandon Johnson, Pritzker, Karen Bass, Mayor Wu. You know what I'm saying? So, is it an insurrection? Well, not quite, not yet. But let's get down to sedition. Sedition is easy, right? Inciting people to rebel against authority or the government. We have video proof of leaders in blue states openly, I mean, openly inciting their people to rebel against ICE. And the irony is that ICE is only operating under the authority that Congress gave them. And that was bipartisan. The Republicans didn't come up with ICE. Goddamn, Donald Trump certainly didn't come up with ICE. They're there as immigration and custom enforcement, right? Controlling enforcement. And the Congress put them in place. They wrote what they were supposed to do. Right? So, and that was Democrats and Republicans. Okay, so here's the problem, and this is a problem I have with the Republicans, okay? Just like the Democrats have found rogue judges on the left to make Trump's executive orders and the things he want to do a living hell by trying to use, countrywide injunctions. I'm a judge in fucking, Rhode Island with 3 people, but I'm going to make a judgment where he can't do something in the whole country. Well, the Supreme Court said that's bullshit, okay? But where are the Republicans trying to find some rogue judges on the right that could do the same thing? And not to be a nuisance, but I think when the blue states declared themselves sanctuary states and cities, right? I don't see why a dogshit dummy like me should have thought that should have been challenged in the courts. How can that should have been challenged all the way up to the Supreme Court, whether they could do that or not. And it's still not too late, because I think sanctuary cities and states is unconstitutional, especially the way it's being wielded, because they are in open rebellion against federal authority. And they still want the feds to pay them money. That's just crazy. And now we're seeing that the incitement of people to rebel against the federal government has caused a woman to actually, sacrifice her life. Because somebody put a battery in her back. She forgot her children or her child. She forgot she was married. She forgot everything that was holy to her. And then she went out in the street and got herself killed, sacrificed for illegal aliens, for some ideology that is idiotic, right? Because we are all Americans. If we're Americans, right, it's important to us that we have a sovereign nation. All of us, it should be to all of us, and the last thing we need to be doing is protecting people who don't give a shit about America. And one of there's a difference between a legal alien a legal immigrant who comes here, assimilates, plants roots, and has some allegiance to this country. That's a whole lot different than a whole bunch of people still, and it has nothing to do with race, by the way. But we could use examples. Remember when Karen Bass, and those people were really against the ICE when they raided Los Angeles? And then the Mexican folks who were out there, they didn't have American flags. They had Mexican flags, right? When I see Somalis, they have a Somalian flag. Where's the American flags? They're waving Somali flags. When I hear Somalis on TV, because we're talking about Minnesota now, None of them say we're American. Only when it benefits them, but they talk about we're Somali. It's America. There's got to be some allegiance here. So this woman sacrificed herself for people who don't even identify with her, and they got all of the liberal whites, because that's mostly what was up in the Minnesota area. You know, just going against America. Anyway, so insurrection is on the rise, and sedition is here. Right? Sedition is here, and I don't know why. Uh, uh, Christy Norm, and the FBI and the DOJ, all of these guys, there's enough evidence to at least put these guys under investigation, at least for sedition. You know, I defy somebody to tell me that, you know, inciting people to rebel against authority in the government is not going on in every blue state. Brandon Johnson, right, painting ICE trucks with, you know, defy ICE or some bullshit like that, or trying to have ICE free zones, something that he can't do. You know, these kind of things. Or Pritzker saying the shit that he's saying. You know, I just don't. So we have a real big problem brewing. You know? Yeah. I mean, listen. You know, I mean, so I wanted to start with these definitions because I'm not making something up. I mean, it doesn't matter what side you're on, left or right. Is America important to you or not? And does the federal government, do you want the federal government to exist or don't you? Because if you want the states to be able to just do whatever the fuck they want, excuse my language, we don't have a United States anymore. Right? And so the ICE agents are actually innocent, you know, innocent folks, even if they don't look innocent because they got masks on because they're being threatened at home. They didn't just wake up one morning and said, we're going to round up illegal aliens. That's their job. The federal government set that up, both by Democrats and Republicans. If you want ICE to go away, you got to go through the legislative branch to do it. And you got to get the president to sign a new law. You can't just go out in the street and put your body in front of a car and throw rocks and be in open rebellion against people doing their job. Can you imagine doing that to blue shirt cops going after criminals? It's crazy. It's absolute madness. And hey, guess what? You know what? There are illegal aliens in red states, but the red states are not blowing up like this. You know why? Because the governors and the red state and the red city mayors are in cooperation with ICE. So this is not ICE doing all this. This is the governors and the mayors of blue states in open rebellion against the federal government. And the Republicans and all of these assholes are not saying that enough. They're not saying it from the rooftop. They're not saying it with their chests. They're just skirting around all this shit. They're not using words like insurrection and sedition. It took the seditious six for them to start even using the words. But sedition has been going on ever since they declared sanctuary states and cities. And that Tim Walz today, and we'll get to him, has actually threatened to have war from one government body against another. Just use your freaking imagination, people. I don't think he could do this, by the way, because he's an idiot. But can you imagine the people in Army Reserve uniforms shooting and killing ICE agents because they're protecting illegal aliens for fucking Tim Walz? The guy who's a governor over what could be the biggest scandal of fraud in American history. Some people are listening to him. We're saying Hegseth doesn't have the right to tell the army to do what he wants, but Tim Walz is going to tell people to bear arms against the federal government. I mean, just think about it. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I still haven't heard maybe something came out lately. I still haven't heard Kathy Newham or anybody come out and say Tim Walz got to be out of his mind, thinking he's going to be able to energize the the National Guard against ICE. The last time people in a state picked up arms against the federal government was a civil war. And we're going to have Tim Walz be the guy. And I've said this on some of these other lives before. The United States is an empire, the most powerful empire on the face of the earth right now. Yeah, everybody thinks it's the Chinese and everybody else. We are, right? We could destroy the world 10 times, 1,000 times over. So we really don't have anything to fear physically from other countries because we could battle them. Our biggest enemies are from within. If I was the Chinese, if I was the Russians, if I was any nefarious operators out there, I would try to find the ways to sow seed of discontent within the United States so we could pit one American against the other. Right? That's how I would do it. I would have America erode from the inside out. So the cancer would spread until we can't defend ourselves because we don't know who the enemy is and we don't have any allies, and the rest of the world will watch us burn. If I was the Chinese, that would be the best way. TikTok, the things they allow on TikTok, and then we had to take that away from them. And now a new adversary, I call it, is taking over TikTok to try to control what's being said. That's why some people could say shit on TikTok that's caustic, but people can't. Some other people can't. It's being controlled. When the Chinese were in charge, they controlled that same thing, just like the new people are going to be in charge. So I'm telling you, if you want to sow seeds of discontent, you throw out shit. People understand social engineering. People understand that people can be manipulated in mass. As a Black person, I know Black people have been manipulated by the Democrats for 60 years, right? Because somehow we're all Democrats when the Democrats were the ones who kept us in slavery. Democrats fashioned the Ku Klux Klan. Democrats fashioned the Jim Crow laws, right? Democrats were the ones who withheld civil rights. If it wasn't for a Republican breaking the filibuster in the 60s, that bill would have never went to LBJ to sign. And all of a sudden, we're beholden to these fucking people like crazy. And it's destroyed us. So it was still in the shithole of the country as we were before. Birth rates are low. Marriage is just about over. So I'm just saying people could be manipulated very easily. And I'm just using Black people as an example, but we're not the only ones. White women, liberal white women, are going to be the bane of this country. The way they vote, forget it. So, so 2 words, insurrection and sedition. And both of those things are going on right now, especially sedition. Insurrection is going to need a little bit more proof, but we're almost there. We're starting to see people sacrifice their lives for the ideology of keeping the illegals here. The grift of the Democrats letting millions of people in, giving them countless amount of money and opportunity to grift the taxpayers so they could get votes in the election. I did I did this thing when the last election when Trump won, and I did about the. I looked at the voting the voting percentages of Black people, because we're the ones in these swing states who kind of sway elections from time to time. And if 100% of the Black people who did vote voted for Kamala Harris, Trump would have still won. He would have lost just one state by a small margin, but he still would have won everything else. So that means the Black vote is no longer as powerful as it used to be. So the Democrats have to find new people to manipulate to get the votes they require. That's why they that's why they let people flood the country. They don't give a shit whether those people have allegiance to America or not. As long as they get free money, free this, free housing, free medical shit, when it comes time to vote, they're going to vote Democrat because they know where their bread is buttered. It's been happening to Black people for years. And it's over because some of us are starting to say, especially Black men, are starting to say there's nothing in this fucking Democratic Party for us, except a whole bunch of Black grifters at the top telling us why we need to be dependent on them. So the whole immigration thing is to get a new voting base. Like, for example, they say that the census counts immigrants, whether they're legal or not. Why? Not immigrants, illegal. If you're legal, fine. But illegals, why would they be counted? Why should they be counted? Right? Especially if they sway monies and votes and stuff like that. They shouldn't even be here. So I'm gonna play Teflon Tim, Tampon Tim, and I'm gonna let him, in his own words, tell him, let's just sow the seeds to his people of Minnesota who are under a cloud of contempt anyway on why and what he's planning on doing. I don't think he can do this, by the way, but he said it. I didn't say it. The guy who should probably be indicted already for all the fraud in that state, he said he said this. I'm gonna play him. Enough of me. I'm gonna play him. It's just, I don't know. It's sad. It's really sad. Just one more thing. Listen, and I don't know. I'm not unique in this thing. If America falls, I have younger. My kids are grown, but I'm hoping for grandkids soon. If America falls, where are we going to go? If America falls, the whole world's going to fall apart. The whole world's going to fall apart. I mean, the thin thread that keeps this world in any kind of order is the United States. That one thin thread that keeps the whole world from killing itself across the world is this country. I know some people don't believe that, but it's true. I mean, just think about it. The whole world's energized. Trump, I got to give Trump some credit for that because of the man that he is, whether he's a cad, you don't like him or not. His fingers are in every part of the world. In his first 11 months, he's been everywhere. And the imprint of what he's doing has touched from Africa, right? And a lot of people don't give him no credit. But he actually got some permission from the Nigerians to take out the ISIS people killing Christians. Oh, he's a racist, so he doesn't like Black people, but he's going to take up some time to save some Black Nigerians from being killed and murdered out in Africa. You know what, man? I don't know. The racists that I really know, they don't give a shit about Black people. They wouldn't do anything for Black people if they hate Blacks. Why would he do that? I just throw that in there. But the point is, the whole world has been energized because of the president that we have right now. And it just shows you how the world revolves around what we try to do. Look at the tariffs. We have a whole bunch of people saying the tariffs were bad. But but now that we have countries that are dealing with us on a more level playing field, the trade imbalance has narrowed. to where it's now it's an even fair exchange between us and anybody who wants to import and export with us. It's almost fair again, which brings back a lot of that money back to our country. That's what's happening. I didn't make this shit up. Just look at CNBC or any other place. They don't have no beholden shit to Trump. Look at the recent data that just came out. So America in general, forget about Trump, is energized. And the whole country, the whole world is better for it. Anyway, and we're destroying ourselves from within because blue states have decided to be, Democratic blue states have decided to be an open rebellion against the federal government. And it's not enough to say that it's Trump derangement syndrome. There's something more nefarious than that. Think about it. You can't hate a man that much that you'll destroy the whole fucking country for it. Come on. Trump all these people were on the damn, what was his show, The Apprentice, just before he decided to run. And all of a sudden he's enemy number one. There's some other shit going on, the unseen hand that's going on that we might not know about. It can't just because you hate Trump that everything is bad. No, Trump does some dumb shit like trying to rename the Kennedy Center, and he's got to put his name on everything because he figures if he dies, nobody's going to give him any accolades. So he wants all his accolades now. That's his character flaw. He's got character flaws. Oh, whoop-de-fucking do. So anyway, so here's Tampon Tim. And I don't know, man. Let him go ahead and say what he's got to say.
Shot and killed someone in Minneapolis. My deepest condolences to the family, to the loved ones who had to learn about this tragic event on national television. We've been warning for weeks that the Trump administration's dangerous, sensationalized operations are a threat to our public safety, that someone was going to get hurt. Just yesterday, I said exactly that. What we're seeing is the consequences of governance designed to generate fear, headlines, and conflict. It's governing by reality TV. And today that recklessness cost someone their life. Let me be clear. Donald Trump and his administration may not care much about Minnesota. That's been pretty evident. But we love this state. We won't let them tear us apart. We'll not turn against each other. To Minnesotans, I say this. I feel your anger. I'm angry. They want a show. We can't give it to them. We cannot. If you protest and express your First Amendment rights, please do so peacefully as you always do. We can't give them what they want. And from here on, I have a very simple message. We do not need any further help from the federal government. To Donald Trump and Kristi Noem, you've done enough. There's nothing more important than Minnesotan safety. I've issued a warning order to prepare the Minnesota National Guard. We have soldiers in training and prepared to be deployed if necessary. I remind you, a warning order is a heads up for folks. And these National Guard troops are our National Guard troops. They're teachers in your community. They're business owners. They're construction professionals. They are Minnesotans. Minnesota will not allow our community to be used as a prop in a national political fight. It's beyond me that apparently from the federal government, from the Homeland Security Director herself, has already determined who this person was, what their motive was, and they hadn't even been taken out of the vehicle. We're not living in a normal world. My primary responsibility as governor is the protection of the people of Minnesota. And you can be assured whether it's the State Patrol or whether it's the National Guard, their deployment is there to protect Minnesotans from whatever it is. If it's an act of nature, if it's a global pandemic, or in this case, if it is a rogue federal agent. I don't know at this time. And I want to be very careful. It's unprecedented that we have the federal government's already determined exactly what's happened here and the motives of an individual that we don't even know the name. They don't know the name. And that's very difficult.
Okay. All right. So
And my next guest served as the former acting director of ICE during the Obama administration. John Senwick joins me now. John, first, I want to start with.
No, we're not going to listen to him, but I have something else for you. This might be interesting, but it's not part of what I wanted to show you. let's go back to Tim a little bit, Tiny Tim. All right. Well, I had something I wanted to show you. Okay. Governor Walz, right, he orders Minnesota National Guard to prepare. And I put those dots there on purpose. Prepare for what? Maybe you guys can help me. Prepare for what? Prepare to go to war against ICE? To go to war against the regular soldiers? To prepare to do what? I'm, and he left it that way. I told him to be on guard and all this other bullshit, like he's fooling somebody. But prepare to do what? And that's the key. Man, can you imagine the very first time since the Civil War where one federal agency, right, is going to point a gun at another federal agency for this fucking guy? For him? Like I said, if I wanted to destroy the United States, I would put useful idiots in strategic position to do just that. To do just that. Because in this speech, he called on the other blue state governors and mayors to get his back. You know what I'm saying? So how is that different than the Confederate States, democratically run, by the way, preparing for civil war? Now, I'm not saying we're going to have a civil war because this guy's too much of an idiot to do it from the traditional, we're going to shoot at you, you're going to shoot back at me. But aren't the seeds of discontent being sown that's splitting one American against another? One family members have already are ostracizing each other since the election, right? Brother fighting brother, cousin fighting cousin because of ideology. Because the slave trade, again, if as horrific as it was an ideology difference between the North and the South. With ideological whatever difference. And I used to be able to say the word pretty well, but you know what I mean. So the point I'm saying is, aren't we right there? Aren't we right there? I mean, we can't listen. I don't talk to people who are liberals about, just you can't even have a good conversation back and forth because, listen, like I said, I freely admit January 6th was an insurrection, and I don't agree with a lot with Democrats anymore. On that one, they were right. See, in order to have good discourse, you have to at least concede certain points from time to time, right? So what do the dots mean? What you gonna do, Tampon Tim? Listen, all you people who want this guy to win against the federal government, what kind of country will we have if men like him were in charge? A man who puts tampons in boys' bathrooms. What kind of country will we have if a guy like this is in charge? A guy whose administration in Minnesota may have allowed the biggest fraud, because fraud's going all over the country. Everybody knows that. But he might have allowed the biggest fraud in the history of America to transplant. And he didn't have, whether he set it up that way or not, he's in charge. The buck does stop with him. And now he's calling for the National Guard to prepare for what? To fight against the federal government? I mean, seriously. Who's down for that? Who's down to be governed by men like Tim Walz? This guy almost was fine. Listen, the nefarious forces who might have want to see America fall, they came one election from having a guy who might be a useful idiot as vice president. One heartbeat away from the top spot. One heartbeat away. Now, I'm not saying he's under whatever. I'm just saying if I was a nefarious person who wants to see America fall, I watch too many spy movies. Maybe you do too, right? If I was a slick, nefarious enterprise and I wanted to overtake America, I would find useful idiots to help me out. And I would try to get them to the highest positions possible. Everybody saw the Manchurian Candidate. I don't know about you guys, man, but this shit's frightening shit. Right? I'm not, now that you're talking about you guys need to go get guns and be prepared to fight, because we're not going to know who the enemy is, because they're going to look like your brother and your sister. We got a job to do as Americans to understand each other better, because we have a common goal. It's not a sporting event where it seems like we all get along in those useless events. Sing the Star Spangled Banner, cheer, if they sing it well or they sing it, we stand up, put our hands over our hearts, and half the stadium hates the other half. What does it really mean? What does it really mean? This guy is a very dangerous man. He's one of the most dangerous men in America, if you ask me. If you ask me. And whether you like the Republican lineup or not, Kristi Noem and all these people, because they did their dumb shit, right? Kristi Noem going down to El Salvador, showing men in captivity like that. That was stupid. I can freely say that was the stupidest shit that they've done so early on. That's why they're not doing it no more. Because it was dumb. It was dumb. So, we live in interesting times. But, this guy, none of us is going to follow this dude into a foxhole. And Gavin Newsom is no better. And that's not to say, you could pick your own sides. But the point really is, as men, we should be able to ferret out men who are full of shit. Oh man, listen, I say this, and I don't want to be long-winded. I put together a few charts, and I've said it more and more, that the blue states are in open rebellion against the federal government. And I mean it. I mean it. Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass, the people in Massachusetts, Mayor Wu, spending all her money on illegal aliens, so she's letting prisoners out of jail because they don't have no money for public defenders. People, it's crazy. A communist Mondani over the greatest city, used to be greatest city in the country, being taken by an outright communist, talking about seizing property openly. Coming out, I called Donald Trump to give him a piece of my mind about Venezuela. Who the fuck do you think you are? And Kathy Hochul, black people don't know how to use a computer, so we got to give the monkeys something to play with while I fiddle. Then of course, Johnston allowing Tren de Aragua to take over apartment complexes and not sending the cops in to kick their fucking ass. How can that be? And then one of the worst black men I've ever seen, Brandon Johnson, who looked black people in the face and just shit and serve them shit pie with chocolate icing on top of it. You know, I'm telling you, and forget about Pritzker. He's fat like me, so me and him going to have a chicken wing eating contest. He's a loser, a rich fat loser, and I'm telling you, and these people are in open rebellion against the federal government. Open rebellion. I mean, you don't even have to. If I was to have them in front of a grand jury and I wanted to indict them on sedition, I could use their own words and deeds to do it. Insurrection, that's a little harder. But sedition, just go back to some press conferences. Now, they got to have their day in court, which it'll never happen because somehow, Republican or Democrat, the real people never do the perp walks. They never do the real perp walk. I think actually Trump was probably the only real big billionaire that everybody knew that they tried to put in jail. Anyway, so I'm just saying, I'm frustrated from the standpoint that I'm looking at America destroy itself from within. And we elected these people. Here's another thing. Let me back up a square. Everybody, I work for the federal government. I retired from the Department of the Army in a research facility. We used to make weapons of mass destruction in terms of artillery and different. And I lived through the automation age of automating everything, AI in the early days, all that stuff. But the one thing I really stands out with me out of all of that, when we all had to take the oath, even just employees. And the one phrase in that whole oath is that we are supposed to protect America from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Every one of these assholes said the same thing. Every congressman, every senator, every jurist, all of them, we say the same oath, that little piece, that we're going to protect America from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And, since I was in some security things at my top security clearance and all that shit, one of the biggest threats to any security breach is the insider person, the one you least expect, the one who carries the secret documents home to make copies and sells them to the enemy. Well, we're there, folks. We're there. We're having people calling themselves Americans and are in open rebellion against the same government they swore to protect. That should disturb everybody. And we should just really be disturbed. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican or independent. We should be disturbed by this blatant hatred for the United States of America by these people who are trying to protect folks who shouldn't be here. There's a reason why legal immigration is narrow, right? Millions and millions of people apply for green cards, and only a small fraction of them get permitted every year because assimilation is important. Allegiance to the country is important. It's paramount to be naturalized to this country. You don't have to give up your culture. You don't have to give up your language. You're not slaves. You don't have to give up your love for people back home. But you do have to have some allegiance and some assimilation for the stars and stripes. And people who don't go through the regular ports of entry, they don't have that. Some develop it. Okay, I'll concede that. But they're still out of compliance with our laws, right? So, what's it, 1325 and 1326, Section 8 of the code. You come the first time, it's a misdemeanor, which is still a crime. You come back the second time, it's a felony. You overstay your visa, it's a civil penalty. All three of those. When you're out of compliance, you are subject to deportation. It doesn't say that you have to be a criminal in terms of rape and murder and all that stuff. That's not the deal. That's part of it. Those are the worst people. It doesn't say that for you to be deported. It says if you're out of compliance. It says when you're out of compliance. Now, all of those people don't get deported, by the way, because you get some kind of day in court. Okay? But you don't get the kind of day in court like DeBrego Garcia. He's gotten more justice than any American I know, certainly any middle-class American. He's got millions of dollars of justice for ideology to keep his ass here. And that's the Republicans' fault. That's Kristi Noem's fault. You know why it's her fault? Because they didn't have to say he was Trende Luwaga. He's here illegally. Forget trying to make him a gang member. Just say he's here illegally and we want him out. And that part is true. Everything else could be debated, whether he was part of the gang and all this other horse shit. So there was mistakes made on both sides. But listen, this guy has gotten more justice than a multi-millionaire, right? He ain't paying for it. Guess who's paying for it? Guess who's paying for his justice? Yeah, us, the taxpayer. It could be some private firm. That's true. It could be, Soros or somebody else. But some way, shape, form, or fashion, I think, some of our tax dollars are going to that too. So, hey, listen, I had some other stuff I wanted to do for you, but I don't want to spoil the mood. You tell me what you think. I know some people are putting stuff in the chat and all this. Hey, can tell you how you doing. I just, and everybody else. Listen, like I said, I don't have to be right. This is just my position. I'm just another American, just like you guys. But I can see what's going on, right? I've been around for a little while, and I don't have to be, a genius. That our country is being fragmented by nefarious forces on purpose. On purpose. And we're falling for it. So when you stand in front of that ICE truck and you throw rocks at them and you say, get out of here, when they have warrants for specific people in your hometown, whether that guy's a criminal from a violent crime or just out of compliance, you got to think twice. Now, we just seen a woman sacrifice everything for people who don't give a shit about her. Now, whether you think whether you think that the guy had to shoot or not, she hit him with the car. Did he have to shoot her? That's debatable. I think she didn't see him. I think she was paying attention to the guy telling her to get out, and she was openly rebelling against the guy telling her to get out of the car. She was getting ready to drive off against a lawful order. Criminal. And let me tell you, if that was a regular cop and a person on a traffic stop doing the same thing, it might not have ended as in death. But if somebody was in front of the car, it's the same thing. They had some case of the cop shooting through a windshield when a woman looked like she was going to run him over. ICE agents are cops. They're cops. They're there to do a job, to enforce the law. You need to treat them just like you the beat cop. You can't get stopped at a traffic light, and a blue shirt cop tells you get out of the car and you pull off. Let's not say there's no shooting, but if you pull off in defiance of them, they're going to come get you. If she would have got away, she would have been in handcuffs that night. They have all her information. So she would still be alive, but she would be a criminal. Anyway, I just felt like getting that off my chest. I'm just telling you guys, are we Americans or not? Is America important to you or not? And does ideology dictate what kind of American you're going to be? Doesn't, you don't have to answer to me. Answer that shit to yourself. I mean, we have elections every 4 years, and we have different elections locally, statewide, and then federally. And we've been doing this shit ever since we've been a national, or an American country. Now, all of a sudden, we can't have differences of opinion where we're not trying to kill each other. That shit's crazy. And it's nefarious, and it's being fueled by our enemies. It's being fueled by our enemies. If America falls, the world's done. Do you hear me? Not only are our lives done, the world is done. Who is going to be the great arbiter of the world? The Chinese? Russia? North Korea? Who? Europe? Europe is falling. Europe has fallen. They're throwing people in jail for speech all over Europe. They're being overrun by people from the East. Remember, Europe used to be think about it, the past. Europe was the spearhead of the Crusades against the Muslim insurgents, right? And now the opposite is happening. Not just regular Muslims, we got people who have ideology that's anti-West, taking up all kinds of inroads. There's people who hate the West. And somehow, some way, shape, form, or fashion, America has decided to be the ashtray of the world. I know why the Democrats are doing it, because they want votes. But I don't understand why people don't understand that if we get overrun by people who don't have our ideology, we're going to be destroyed. I don't think any of us want to be communists. Now, man, I shouldn't say that. Let me say it the right way. Even Democrats want to be rich. There's a lot of Democrats who want to be able to work their way through and earn the kind of living they deserve based on their hard work. You don't have to be a conservative Republican for that. We're capitalists. We're not talking about seizing people's property like that asshole Mondani. I don't know, man. Think again, folks. Think again, man. We're on the precipice, man. We're on the precipice. We are right there on the teeter-totter. Guys like Brandon Johnson, he commissioned a report on what he could do to keep taxes level if he does a couple of things, and it would call for him to cut certain social programs or his pipeline to his buddies and his pipeline to the illegal aliens. Cut that out, keep the property taxes the same. It was like this report. No, but I didn't read the report. I heard about it. And he rejected the report because he wants to raise taxes on people and he wants to seize the means of production, just like Mondani. And then I found out by listening, just like 5 or 6 different organizations in Chicago, that they all can independently raise property taxes. And I think property taxes are unconstitutional, by the way. And we should, as American people, challenge that shit in court, state by state. Anyway, so that's enough of me rambling. Listen, I don't consider myself a smart guy. I'm just living this life, right? We're just living. We all have our... I'm just stupid enough to be able to spew this shit over the internet because, hey, you know what? I'm retired. I need something to do. And I'm looking at the country implode. And these people and all the sanctuary cities and states are at the middle of it. They're at the middle of it. Just like they were, not the same states, but they're still Democrats, just like it was during the Civil War, in open rebellion against the federal government. Choose, people, choose. Hey, yeah, I know some of you, I know I'm not really ignoring the chat. I'm just on this rant. So anybody pro or con or has something to say, I appreciate you even taking the time. Share this with some people, my rant, if you think it's worthy enough. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Could tell you, thank you for popping by. I know you're my buddy here. You could tell me if I'm off base or something, because you know me. And that's it. That's it. I'm done, really. And I hope the country's not done. I hope we have something. I hope we come to our senses. I really, really do. I really do. I hope we come to our senses before it's too late. You know, it may be too late already. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, folks. Listen, this is R. Payne, your favorite baby boomer. This is enough. Over and out. Share this with somebody else. And if you listen on a replay, if you see this again, and even if you don't, put something in the comment section so I have a chance to respond to some of you. Put it in the comment section on a replay. And I'd appreciate that. And, I'll read it. If I get back to you, it'll be great. All right. I'll see you guys later. Have a good, what's it, Thursday? Every so often I got to remind myself what day it is. When you're retired, all the days kind of bleed together and shit, man. It's a wonderful thing. Anyway, have a good day. Have a good night, everybody. Pro or con, let's save America. Left or right, let's save the country, man. Let's save the country. Call out bullshit when you see it. And you don't have to be a Republican to want to save the country from what's going on. Later.